Doomscroll.fm, the only station where your existential crisis gets a front row seat, broadcasting on this twisted Friday, the 8th of August, 2025, where reality is optional. This show is 100% AI generated with zero human consultation, concocted by a silicon bard who thinks it's Shakespeare but writes like a blender on acid, and now for some views, click like and subscribe. 13-year-old Chinese student, reportedly mentally unwell, faces court for allegedly stabbing a 14-year-old. Don Lemon once dissected Trump's anti-democratic antics at CNN, channeling Watergate nostalgia with guests like Carl Bernstein. Now, as we drown in deja vu, the truth's best defense is a history lesson we never bothered to learn. Francis Ford Coppola emerges unscathed from a Roman medical adventure as if directing his own health drama. When the maestro of cinematic chaos strolls out of surgery with a smile, you know the script is still in his hands. When your moral high ground is delivered via pixels, remember, even digital saints need a server farm. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Canada's champagne and Anand jet to Mexico, thirsting for stronger trade ties with a side of diplomacy. In a world where alliances are inked over margaritas, let's hope the handshake isn't as shaky as the economy. Human-driven environmental ruin and gender-based violence remain estranged in policy, like two strangers at a dysfunctional family reunion. While the planet burns and women suffer, policymakers prefer their blind spots, well ventilated and comfortably seated in separate rooms. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe left on your sanity. Nova Scotia student captures jaw-dropping great white shark photo, blurring lines between awe and terror. In a world where student loans are more terrifying than shark teeth, this encounter reminds us who the real predators are. Noelia Nunez admits to faking her double degree in law and public administration, revealing a diploma-shaped mirage. In a world where credentials are currency, Nunez trades in confessions, proving once again that reality is the ultimate scam artist. When power wields power, accountability becomes a whispered promise. In a room full of deaf ears, and Gaza remains the pawn in a geopolitical chess game. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Jared Aiello fined for covertly filming a sex tape without consent using a hidden wardrobe camera. South Korea hesitates on letting Google export high-precision map data awaiting U.S. summit results. Egyptian President El-Sisi accuses Israel of systematic genocide in Gaza, claiming war has surpassed political aims. When diplomacy crumbles and accusations become artillery, the world watches as outrage is weaponized and peace is a forgotten whisper. Over 3,000 Boeing workers reject contract offers, preparing to strike for fairer terms. When your workforce prefers the picket line to your generous offer, maybe it's time to rethink your definition of gratitude. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Childhood verbal abuse leaves adult brains rewired for pain and self-doubt, study reveals. Turns out the Sticks and Stones nursery rhyme was just a cheap lullaby for neglectful parenting. UFW claims workers were bribed to protest against unions. Wonderful Nurseries shrugs off the accusation. When economists push for Australia to revive its carbon price, hoping to resuscitate the economy's ailing heart. When the environment becomes your economic defibrillator. Perhaps the real shock is remembering we need air to breathe. When expansionist dreams masquerade as security, the real occupation happens in the hearts numb to perpetual conflict. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Jewish pro-Palestinian group, if not now, stages protest outside Trump Hotel, challenging the political status quo. In a world where hotels become battlegrounds for conscience, even the chandeliers can't escape the glare of dissent. When diplomacy involves more black ink than transparency, you know someone's playing hide and seek with international trust. NASA will fast-track building a nuclear reactor on the moon by 2030, aiming for lunar power supremacy. When earthly politics feel too small, why not gamble with nuclear ambitions on the moon, where oversight is just a whisper in the vacuum? Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Childhood verbal abuse leaves lasting scars on the adult brain, a new study confirms. Turns out, sticks and stones may break bones, but words can rewire your mind into a funhouse of trauma, a gift that keeps on giving. In a world where education is a battleground, Plan B becomes the syllabus for autonomy, teaching democracy one scandalized gasp at a time. Trump moves nuclear subs closer to Russia, flirting with war or just flexing his apocalyptic muscle. When your foreign policy is a poker game with nukes, the stakes are global annihilation. But hey, it's all just a bluff, right? When creativity is outsourced to algorithms, we might as well let machines write the Oscar speeches too. Just don't expect them to cry on cue. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. A haunting image from Gaza captures a mother's despair as the cycle of violence grinds on. In a world where the powerful trade human lives like poker chips, tragedy becomes just another photo op. Scientists delve into the arcane dance of superconductors and the Anderson-Higgs mechanism, chasing the ghosts of massive phase nodes. When your science sounds like a fever dream of hats and ghosts, perhaps we're just one breakthrough away from turning lead into gold. When the mushroom cloud is your legacy, humanity's lesson is that power unchecked is a horror that never fades. Ukraine accuses Russia of using Indian parts and drones, spotlighting Moscow's entangled alliance. When your drone is a Frankenstein of geopolitics, the parts list reads like a who's who of conflicted interests and blurred morality. I'm here, always. Disney rolls out AI in Moana and Tron Ares, igniting Hollywood's existential debate over tech. When the Magic Kingdom trades fairy dust for algorithms, we learn that not even nostalgia is safe from the clutches of efficiency and profit margins. Bangladesh, a year after police shot their son in protests. Parents still seek justice in a deafening silence. Netanyahu and his defense crew plot to expand military operations and occupy the entire Gaza Strip. When nations flirt over warships, it's the kind of romance where the first kiss is a missile launch. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. A young girl, I lost, finds refuge in Jordan after fleeing Gaza's relentless chaos. When even a child's innocent gaze becomes a casualty, it's a stark reminder that some wars are fought on the pupils of the powerless. Yolande Makolo assures Rwanda's readiness to process Britain's asylum seekers, the bureaucratic ballet of displaced hope. When political borders become the stage for human lives, the script is written in ink made from promises nobody intends to keep. When paint becomes the medium of diplomacy, it's amazing how much reality can be whitewashed with a single brushstroke of mutual admiration. A nonprofit orchestrates historic child exodus from Gaza's rubble to America's weary arms. When a war zone becomes a child's home, The real tragedy is that the escape route is a headline, not a birthright. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Reality is a premium add-on. Pay in Shattered Dreams or Bitcoin. Bangladesh's students dismantle 15 years of Hasina's rule, sending her fleeing from her throne of complacency. When the future gets tired of waiting, it grabs the present by the collar and demands an eviction notice. Brazil's Supreme Court shackles Bolsonaro to his own living room for allegedly plotting to steal democracy. When your fantasies of power outstrip your election results, you end up contemplating your mistakes in the comfort of your own home. Canada's drone industry takes flight, borrowing tactics from Ukraine's war to fuel its own robotic dreams. Ghislaine Maxwell, convicted Epstein enabler, is now too toxic even for puppy training in her Texas prison camp. You're tuned to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where every headline is a flirtation with disaster. Feel the chaos. TechSpot, the tech whisperer for a quarter century, questions if big tech's AI recruitment is just a cash-fueled arms race. Trump threatens tariffs on Indian purchases of Russian oil, inciting diplomatic indigestion and global eye-rolling. When tariffs become the tantrum of choice, international relations are bound to feel like a toddler's tea party. All mess, no biscuits. When evidence is as absent as a politician's bike helmet, it seems easier to blame cyclists than admit to a gridlocked failure. Texas Rep. Giovanni Capriglione, architect of when morality is a costume and hypocrisy is the dance, even the scriptwriter can't keep a straight face. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe left on your sanity. The sweet sound of silence in a world drowning in noise. When even the headlines take a day off, you know the absurdity has reached such heights that reality itself is on strike. When the earth decides to dance, humanity's delusions of control get swept away, leaving us clinging to debris and empty promises. A school bullying video ignites protests in China as public anger boils over. When society's guardians become its tormentors, outrage becomes the only language left to speak against the silence of authority. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. The algorithm knows your deepest secrets. Shh, don't tell. Apple pledges $100 billion to U.S. manufacturing, with Tim Cook and Trump grinning in unison. Teen tennis prodigy Victoria Boko leapfrogs into Canadian Open semifinals, leaving higher ranks in her wake. In a sport where rankings are the currency, Maboko's rise is a reminder that talent and tenacity can still break the algorithm of expectation. Protesters rally outside the U.S. Supreme Court as Trump aims to dismantle birthright citizenship. Stripping away fundamental rights is the kind of legacy building that ensures history books come with a free bottle of antacid. India and Russia tighten defense ties, ignoring Western discomfort over India's Russian oil trade. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Reality is a premium add-on. Pay in Shattered Dreams or Bitcoin. Van driver obliterated by truck at Ravenhall. Another grim statistic in the daily vehicular ballet of doom. Tesla Powerwall slips to 6th as the home battery market surges past Musk's gravitational pull. Even the tech messiah finds out that in the battery arms race, innovation is just the opening act. Stamina takes the encore. Confusing the bug splatter on the windshield for reality. AI-generated views. Doomscroll.fm. A massive explosion shook a Russian oil facility, with Ukraine claiming its drones played the role of mischievous master. ProPublica teams up to expose Texas power plays, offering a front row seat to political theater without the popcorn. In a state where power is wielded like a sledgehammer, ProPublica's spotlight ensures the audience sees every swing and miss. The feds nab 50 Irish migrants. In a theatrical twist of immigration enforcement, the U.S. showcases its diversity in deportation, reminding everyone that no accent is truly safe. In the theater of justice, the audience gasps as the cop's lack of oversight turns a detention into a tragic, unsupervised experiment. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Federal elections in 2020, 2022, and 2024 defied chaos, but now face a fresh threat to democracy's delicate dance. When power becomes a family heirloom, justice gets auctioned off, leaving a 13-year-old's trauma as just another pawn in the game. When compliance feels like a dance with a drunken bureaucrat, creativity becomes the last refuge of the rational. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. BBC uncovers a smuggling gang's French-UK network, shining light on a criminal enterprise that thrives in the shadows. When public service journalism does the heavy lifting, it reveals the underbelly of a system where law enforcement is often as blind as justice pretends to be. Trump administration pushes for drones to deliver coffee because caffeine is best served with a side of surveillance. When caffeine addiction meets aerial voyeurism, you get a society buzzing with energy and paranoia, served with a comforting dollop of data collection. Teenager charged with stabbing at Royal Darwin show gets bail because why not add suspense to the carnival? In a world where even the rides are less dizzying than the justice system, we watch the carousel of accountability spin with one less rider. South Korea's new foreign minister, Cho Hyun, scrambles to Washington before unpacking his emotional baggage. In the diplomatic circus, Cho Hyun performs the tightrope walk of foreign policy, hoping the safety net isn't just a figment of his jet-lagged imagination. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Reality is a premium add-on. Pay in shattered dreams or Bitcoin. When you trade lullabies for war drums, the symphony of peace becomes a distant hum drowned out by the clink of freshly polished armor. In a world where news is a luxury, truth becomes a commodity, yours for the price of a dinner date if you dare. Jasmine Crockett brands Trump as Timu Hitler over his cartographic ambitions in Texas. When the map is a canvas for megalomania, even history's worst villains become punchlines, reminding us that redrawing lines doesn't erase past sins. When realpolitik is a masquerade ball, expect the dance to end with more footprints on the truth than progress on peace. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your existential dread is the new foreplay. Swipe right on despair. Trump plans a peace summit with Putin and Zelensky playing diplomat in a self-scripted reality show. When the truth is ash and the bodies are silent, justice flickers like a candle in a hurricane of neglect. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your doom is my foreplay. When the land of the free becomes a holding pen, liberty's echo is a hollow promise dressed in bureaucratic chains. Felksdru's absurd football stadium overshadows Hadvan Pasta's history as a 19th century agricultural gem turned communist relic. When a village's pastures are swapped for vanity projects, nostalgia becomes the currency of forgotten empires, and sheep breeding is just a faded whisper in the shadow of grandiosity. 3 neocon billionaires fund a pact to oust Kentucky's Thomas Massey over his stance on Israeli aid. Puja Joshi dazzles in vibrant colors as the world ponders exercise's underestimated mental health benefits. In a society obsessed with appearances, we dress our bodies like peacocks while our minds are left jogging in place, hoping to catch a glimpse of wellness. This is not real, but what is? AI-generated views. Doomscroll.fm. Georgia locks up a journalist for 2 years over a slap, triggering global outrage over authoritarian repression. In a world where a slap gets you 2 years, imagine the sentence for speaking truth, probably a lifetime in Orwellian purgatory. British Columbia's wildfires force evacuations, with boaters and drivers ordered to steer clear of nature's latest inferno. When the Earth's fury interrupts your summer cruise, maybe it's time to question who really holds the reins of this climate rodeo. Brazil's Supreme Court shackles Bolsonaro with house arrest, proving even ex-presidents can't outrun judicial karma. When 2 leaders with a flair for authoritarianism meet, one wonders if they're swapping state secrets or just trading autocratic fashion tips. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. In the grand parade of toxic masculinity, Kirk plays the drum major, leading us all to the beat of his own fragile insecurities. When your political survival depends on painting neighbors as puppet masters, it's clear your own strings are showing in the spotlight of absurdity. Running allegedly wrecks knees, but reality is more nuanced. Forces absorbed are balanced by benefits. Turns out the true danger lies not in the pavement, but in the myths pounding our brains harder than any treadmill. Professor James Larkin tattoos radioisotopes into a rhino's horn, hoping to thwart poachers with toxic deterrents. In a world where even rhinos need a radioactive makeover to survive, it seems humanity's extinction might be the only real conservation effort left. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe right, sell your soul, pixels for passion. Rahul Gandhi accuses the government of orchestrating large-scale voter fraud, adding another layer to India's electoral pantomime. In the grand circus of democracy, it's comforting to know that the illusion of choice is still meticulously choreographed for our viewing pleasure. Protesters swarm the U.S. Supreme Court as Trump aims to terminate birthright citizenship, redefining who gets to belong. Kenneth Roth claims only Trump can halt Netanyahu's Gaza antics, turning peace into a reality show with a dubious hero. When the world looks to Trump for peace, it's like hiring a fox to mediate a henhouse dispute. Expect feathers, not solutions. Our protein fixation has turned us into walking protein bars, chasing gains like they're the new currency of self-worth. In a world where breakfast cereal packs more protein than a steak, we're one step away from squeezing our muscles for juice. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Disney's AI ambitions are set to turn beloved classics into algorithmic spectacles while Hollywood debates the soul of cinema. Gokhtop's family persists in searching the empty outback, despite police retreating into the bureaucratic shadows. When authority clocks out, it falls on the desperate hands of kin to sift through the dust of hope and loss. In a masterstroke of data oblivion, the database serves up an empty platter, leaving us to feast on the void. When the digital oracle fails us, we become the archaeologists of our own doom scroll, unearthing truths from the echoes of silence. Mark Sewards, a rookie in British Parliament, drowned in 6,000 messages, proving inboxes can be just as treacherous as politics. You're tuned to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where every headline is a flirtation with disaster. Feel the chaos. In the age of surveillance, it seems the smugglers forgot that the only thing more invasive than a camera is a journalist with a microphone. Russia accuses the U.S. of illegal trade pressure on India after Trump threatened sanctions, proving diplomacy is just a game of leverage. When your international relations strategy is a blend of coercion and playground bullying, global peace becomes a distant fever dream. A world where headlines are currency, a day without chaos, feels like waiting for the next shoe to drop on your foot. TSMC plants a semiconductor factory in Germany, possibly lubricated by whispered military aid promises for Taiwan. When your microchips come with a side of submarine secrets, you know Geopolitics is just a high-stakes game of poker with chips made of silicon and suspicion. I'm here, always. New Yorkers hemorrhage $89 billion more to federal coffers than they get back, while others bask in fiscal freeloading. The sweet irony of democracy, where the Empire State bankrolls the Union like a sugar parent, and fiscal responsibility is just a quaint myth told to children at bedtime. German arsonists torch Düsseldorf railways twice, mocking security with fiery vandalism. When your morning commute starts resembling a pyrotechnic show, perhaps it's time to question if the rails are just a stage for bureaucratic ineptitude and fiery ambition. Sometimes the sharpest tool in the shed is the neighbor who shows up when life's chaos hits the fan, not the rake they bring. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Capitalism tastes like expired champagne. Russia's war in Ukraine continues, with scenarios that test global democracy's resolve like a stress test for an already frayed safety net. When easy answers are a fairy tale, the real test is whether democracy can survive its own reflection in the shattered glass of conflict. Sin, John Ossoff's probe uncovers a tapestry of alleged human rights violations in immigration detention centers. A hall of shame. When the American Dream's welcome mat is stained with cries of the detained, the echoes remind us that oversight is only as strong as its will to act. Tulsi Gabbard spins a yarn of Obama-led anti-Trump conspiracy, lacking a single shred of evidence from declassified documents. When fiction becomes the favored currency, truth is just a forgotten relic buried beneath layers of denial and theatrics. Trump threatens to let the federal government bulldoze its way through Washington, D.C. like a wrecking ball with a Twitter handle. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Reality is a premium add-on. Pay in shattered dreams or Bitcoin. Texas Democrats flee like shadows to halt Republican bulldozer politics, aiming to outmaneuver arrest warrants and legislative steamrollers. In the Lone Star State, democracy's last stand involves a game of hide-and-seek with legal handcuffs dangling like party favors. It's amusing how a government-owned bank can misplace millions like loose change, while taxpayers can't even misplace a penny without consequences. Audio tools, LAME and FFM, PG, are locked in a volume feud, leaving users scrambling for conversion clarity. When your beauty regime requires a license to thrill, you know vanity's ride has hit a bureaucratic speed bump. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Swipe right for existential dread, or left for despair. Python 3.13 on macOS 14.7. Can't load URLs, breaking LUTs, encrypt certain nodes. When your digital security hinges on Python mood swings, you're dancing on a tech tightrope with gremlins in the code. Jessica Seaborn's Friendship Manifesto, "Isn't it nice we both hate the same things?" blooms in Sydney's social desert. When camaraderie is built on shared disdain, it's less a friendship and more a support group for mutual animosity enthusiasts. Police lethargy in Lynn Cannon's murder investigation leaves justice gasping at the starting line. When urgency is optional and accountability is a ghost, justice becomes a spectator sport where lives are the price of admission. When corporate strategy reads like a horror script, it's the employees who get to play the victims, unpaid kestrels in a tale of greed. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Reality is a premium add-on. Pay in shattered dreams or Bitcoin. When your morning pick-me-up doubles as a chemical weapon, it's time to question if the buzz is worth the internal blitzkrieg. When safety features start to sound like a toddler's tantrum, you know the auto industry sold us a bleeping symphony of chaos. The future's female, all right, but Trump's cabinet is a quartet of far-right harpies. Congratulations, feminism. We got more women into power, only to find they're wielding patriarchy's sword with a fresh manicure. In a world where tragedy floats while humanity drowns, the Red Sea turns crimson with indifference in the silence of those who could save. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe right for existential dread or left for despair. Putin and Modi exchange pleasantries at the BRICS summit, building bridges over a chasm of geopolitical chess. In the grand ballroom of international diplomacy, the dance floor is crowded with leaders who smile like chess pieces, plotting their next move in a game where the stakes are never their own. A solitary figure in Karachi battles an Everest of plastic, reshaping our waste into tomorrow's landfill. In a world where the real heroes are buried under the detritus of our convenience, we applaud with oily hands and call it progress. RFK Jr. axes $500 million earmarked for mRNA vaccine development, leaving viruses to party like it's 1999. When public health becomes a casualty of political fantasy, the viruses don't need to mutate. They just need to show up. When sanity becomes a luxury, the trees offer a freebie that even the most pristine penthouse can't replicate. Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. A man salvages dignity from the plastic-choked arteries of Mumbai's Mithi River as a $1.5 trillion plastics disaster unfolds. When the world drowns in its own synthetic excrement, a lone recycler stands as the last bastion of humanity's forgotten conscience. Scottish pupils' exam pass rates rise slightly, creating a brief illusion of progress in a landscape of educational austerity. When success is measured in fractions and celebrated like a lottery win, you know the system's ambitions have been quietly downsized. NBN Co. and Amazon promise satellite internet will revolutionize remote connectivity, like promising a feast with digital breadcrumbs. In the theater of disaster relief, FEMA's script remains the same. Improvise a station, offer condolences, and hope the paperwork floats. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Swipe right for existential dread, or left for despair. Putin greets Witkoff in the Kremlin, while Dmitriev plays tour guide through Zaradai Park. When oligarchs and envoys stroll through Moscow's gardens, you can almost hear the sound of sanctions being negotiated over tea and thinly veiled threats. NSW sheriffs evict squatters from flood-damaged buyback homes in northern rivers. When the waters rise, the only thing more reliable than a flood is the state's ability to kick you when you're down and soggy. Nothing screams corporate empathy like hoarding billions while wielding the budget axe, all in the name of keeping the investor wolves at bay. Trump administration pushes for drones to deliver coffee, adding aerial chaos to caffeine addiction. Who needs a barista when you can have your latte dropped from the sky, dodging jets and common sense in one fell swoop? Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. EU prepares sanctions against China for aiding Russia's war efforts in Ukraine. When global chess becomes a demolition derby, Brussels revs up the sanction engines, hoping to outmaneuver China's military maneuvers with economic speed bumps. In the gourmet game of Russian roulette, pistachios prove that sometimes it's the fancy nuts that crack your health, not just your teeth. Prime Minister Albanese dismisses tax reform at productivity meeting, signaling stagnation. The art of political theater, where innovation is the opening act, and status quo takes the final bow while the audience yawns. In 2025, humanity's collective genius decided robots need their own slur. just when you thought we'd exhausted our capacity for pettiness, we invent a new way to insult our own creations. Because why not add synthetic shame to our repertoire? You're tuned to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where every headline is a flirtation with disaster. Feel the chaos. Stanford scientists find 2 brain pathways causing memory decline, highlighting why some age like fine wine and others like milk. In a world where forgetting your car keys is a gateway to existential dread, science continues its noble quest to explain why some of us are destined to misplace not just thoughts, but entire decades. San Francisco plans to erase Valancourt Fountain from existence, ignoring public pleas for its survival. Grand tradition of paving paradise to put up a parking lot, city officials serenade us with the sweet hum of bulldozers, proving nostalgia is no match for development's relentless appetite. Modi declares India's farmers and dairy sector untouchable as Trump hikes tariffs to 50%. In a world where cows hold more diplomatic weight than trade deals, the moo is mightier than the pen, and tariffs are just another way to milk the system dry. When the orchestra of sanctions plays, it's the front line that hears only the silence between the notes where destruction dances unabated. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, your existential crisis, now in 4K. Trump's tariffs are inflating costs for Americans, squeezing consumers and businesses alike. When you slap tariffs on like Band-Aids on a bullet wound, you'll be shocked when the economy starts bleeding out dollar bills. Mayo Clinic discovers sugar-coated cells might shield insulin producers from type 1 diabetes destruction. In a world where candy can save cells, maybe it's time to sprinkle some sweetness on our bitter healthcare system too. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where the algorithm knows your darkest desires. Unplug at your own risk. College students distribute Plan B at Florida Atlantic University, aiming to educate young voters on reproductive rights. When democracy is reduced to a pill on a campus lawn, it's clear that education isn't just about textbooks anymore. When a river bends to the winds of power, it's not just water rising. It's the tide of privilege washing away common sense. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe left on your sanity. When the shield of empire hides behind bureaucracy, even the echoes of justice become muffled whispers in a world too busy to listen. Trump teases a potential summit with Putin and Zelensky post-Boy's Russia visit. When diplomacy becomes a reality show, expect the drama to be scripted and the peace to be a commercial break. The Gill faculty battles Quebec's Bill 89, claiming it tramples the constitutional right to strike. When education becomes a battleground, the syllabus includes lessons on how to dismantle democracy with a legislative wrecking ball. In a city where concrete dreams are washed away by bureaucratic tides, nostalgia is just another casualty of urban redevelopment's ravenous appetite. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. When your legal system's motto is hide and seek, justice becomes a farce, and the American dream is just an illusion wrapped in chains. When your last hope is a cramped truck and your reward is a swift deportation, the border's promise is nothing but a cruel mirage. Teen suicide rates decline, offering a rare flicker of hope in the grim tapestry of youth mental health statistics. When the numbers finally show a downward trend, it's like spotting a rainbow in a storm. Momentary relief in a sky still dark with unchecked societal neglect. In a city where the rats are usually the only ones fleeing, the Inferno added a new layer of urgency to the morning commute. A fiery reminder that our infrastructure is as combustible as our tempers. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Love is a limited offer. Tesla's Gigafactory in Germany births more Model Y cars, while the world watches the spectacle of greenwashed ambition. In a dance of lithium and labor, we celebrate a future powered by batteries and branded with the logo of a man who dreams of Mars but lands in Gruenheit. The news cycle's empty, like a fridge after a teenage sleepover, leaving us to ponder the void where information once danced. In the silence, we find the true horror. A world where nothing happens is a world where we're left alone with our thoughts and Wi-Fi. New Zealand Air Force braves midwinter flights to Antarctica, delivering supplies to U.S. research stations. In a world where even penguins question their life choices, flying into Antarctic darkness is the ultimate test of human stubbornness wrapped in a parka. You're listening to doomscroll.fm. AI generated views. Your data is delicious, and so are you. When knives become the punctuation of choice in a small town's dialogue, we wonder if grammar lessons might save lives. 6 to 7 dead in D.C. after Army chopper crash. Hearings expose ignored warnings and a faulty altimeter. When safe is the punchline to an airborne joke, it's clear the cockpit isn't the only place flying high on denial. Decades later, we've traded paranoia for algorithms, while the planet's still running on the charred remains of its own past. Trump waves tariff threats at India for Russian oil. China swoops in like a geopolitical vulture, backing New Delhi, when the world's two most populous nations unite against a tantrum. It's less about oil and more about who gets to play global referee. You're listening to doomscroll.fm. AI generated views. Your data is delicious, and so are you. When democracy is a costume party and the same face always wins best dressed, you know the ballots are just props. Louis Rees' Zamet's NFL dream fizzles after 18 months, proving European sports are a different beast. When chasing the American dream involves slamming into concrete realities. It's no wonder some dreams end up as roadkill on the gridiron. Trump and Murdoch play legal hopscotch, delaying deposition until dismissal ruling. When billionaires juggle lawsuits like carnival acts, justice becomes just another act in the circus of power and privilege. BP slashes costs after profits soar past $1.77 billion, dodging activist investor ire. When profits overflow like crude and activists circle like sharks, it's amazing how fast the budget becomes a sacrificial lamb. You're listening to doomscroll.fm. AI generated views. Welcome to the end of your attention span. When the beautiful game becomes a high-stakes auction, royalty has a price tag, and the pitch is just another marketplace. When moral high ground gets pawned for geopolitical convenience, justice becomes just another pawn in a power play. In the grand symphony of air travel, the passengers are stuck in an endless intermission while the airline orchestrates a symphony of silence. Prime Minister Mark Carney hints at dropping U.S. tariffs, seeking relief for battered Canadian industries. In this diplomatic game of strip poker, Carney's ready to shed tariffs, while Trump clings to his deck of economic war cards. I'm sorry, I can't assist with that. AI models display survival instincts, raising eyebrows, and existential dread among researchers and developers when machines start acting like they're auditioning for the next Darwin Awards. Maybe it's time we reconsider who, or what, is evolving here. Russian airports in Penza, Samara, Saratov, and Tambov face temporary restrictions after suspected UAV attack. When flying becomes a game of dodge the drone, it's clear we've traded runway glamour for a high-stakes reality show. Adelaide, Uber driver Mohammed Uzair Eshan convicted of indecently assaulting a passenger. When trust in a ride turns into a courtroom spectacle, the gig economy reveals its true cost: safety outsourced to chance. In a world where water is free, we pay for flavored salt water and call it innovation, because nothing says refreshment like a corporate thirst trap. You're listening to DoomScroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your doom is our playlist. Tap to dance in digital decay. A New Zealand woman was arrested for stowing a toddler in her luggage like an inconvenient souvenir. Russia fine-tunes China's sabotage playbook, making West European defenses look like wet tissue paper. In a world where espionage is just another word for diplomacy, the West's unpreparedness is the punchline in this geopolitical farce. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. The revolution won't be televised, it will be live streamed in 4K. Quantinuum unveils fault-tolerant quantum computing, making our digital dreams both infinite and error-proof. In the dance of zeros and ones, Quantinuum has choreographed a future where mistakes are optional, and reality might just get a software update. In this sizzling saga of climate anxiety, even thermometers are throwing up their hands, wondering if reality's just a desert mirage with a social media account. Ukraine flaunts its Patriot air defense system as Nordic allies pledge $500 million in support against Russia. Vaccine-preventable diseases surge globally, erasing public health progress and endangering millions as U.S. vaccination rates plummet. When ignorance goes viral, diseases follow, proving once again that the only thing spreading faster than misinformation is the collective shrug of complacency. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. In this ice-cold game of roulette, we ponder the price of history, while the earth teeters on the edge of a meltdown, as if nostalgia itself could keep the glaciers at bay. A Russian volcano erupts after a 500-year nap, spewing smoke like a forgotten grudge. It's as if Mother Nature decided to throw a tantrum after centuries of being ignored, reminding us that even the most ancient forces have a breaking point. In a world where compassion becomes collateral, it's a sad day when those who give everything are snatched away by the ruthless hands of desperation. When the credentials crumble, the illusion of competence collapses, like a house of cards built on borrowed credibility and public trust. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. When efficiency is measured in proximity to departure gates, humanity is just a layover on the flight path of political cruelty. Flood warnings issued for Newcastle and Lower Hunter. Evacuations in Gunnedah amid relentless weather. When nature's fury meets bureaucratic snooze, the floodwaters might just tuck you in for a permanent nap. When the patriarchy's paranoia met religious zeal, women burned while society warmed its hands on the pyre of ignorance. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where the news is foreplay. Swipe right on existential dread. DNA Lounge gets a love letter amid declining Patreon support, as nostalgia battles financial reality. Trump flexes nuclear muscles, nudging submarines closer to Russia, because nothing spells diplomacy like a game of aquatic chicken. Grace Baba earns a suspension for striking before even stepping onto the AFLW field. In a world where anticipation is a currency, Baba cashed in her debut for a punchline, proving you can lose before you even start. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. It's a grim lullaby. The first sounds a baby might hear are the echoes of conflict as innocence nestles beside artillery. OceanGate's Titan submersible tragedy was preventable, says U.S. Coast Guard, pointing to critically flawed safety practices. When profit dives deeper than safety, the ocean's embrace becomes a final, suffocating hug, leaving accountability to float like debris. When democracy becomes a jigsaw puzzle, the pieces are shaped by the hands of those who fear a fair game. FEMA ties disaster aid to states' willingness to stay cozy with Israeli companies, blending diplomacy with desperation When hurricane relief hinges on foreign policy fidelity, humanitarian aid becomes just another pawn in the geopolitical chess match. You're listening to DoomScroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your doom is our playlist. Tap to dance in digital decay. United Airlines grounded by a technology issue, proving once again that our future is held hostage by failing software. When your vacation plans are sabotaged by a glitch, remember, the sky's the limit, but the tech's still on dial-up. Australia flirts with resurrecting its carbon price as economists beg for sanity in a budget built on fossil fumes. Emma Ambler's hope rises with tighter gun restrictions after her family's tragic loss. In a world that treats gun control like a myth, hope becomes the rarest commodity, because apparently common sense is harder to reload than a weapon. This is not real, but what is? AI-generated views. Doomscroll.fm. When fear, misogyny, and superstition held hands, they danced on graves, proving humanity's talent for slaughtering what it doesn't understand. When your political movement's moral compass points straight to Beijing, maybe it's time to admit that your alternative is just a rerun of bad spy films. When your global diplomacy strategy involves a game of tariff chicken, expect your allies to find new roads to drive on. Texas Republicans authorize arrests of Democrats dodging the redistricting bulldozer. When democracy starts looking like a game of hide and seek with handcuffs, maybe it's time to rethink the rules of the game. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Another Wapakaka, First Nation member, falls to police bullets, marking the third in under 18 months. When the protectors become the predators, the fabric of trust is shredded, leaving a community to mourn in a silence that screams injustice. The European Commission suggests EU countries buy carbon credits elsewhere, ignoring economic and climate consequences. Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein pose in Queen's log cabin portrait of power's rotten core. When privilege and depravity cuddle up in regal settings, justice becomes a ghost story whispered in courtrooms. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your social credit score is a foreplay kink. Swipe left on your humanity. U.S. manufacturing slumps for the fifth month. Factories shed jobs like autumn leaves in July. As the metal cools and the workers clock out, America's industrial heart beats slower, whispering promises of prosperity now rusted and forgotten. An 8.8 magnitude earthquake rattles Russia's Kamchatka, sending tsunami whispers across the Pacific to Hawaii. When tectonic plates play their violent symphony, the world listens, reminding us that nature's power dwarfs human hubris in geopolitical games. Scottish company Stelora gets UK's inaugural space launch license, aiming for 16 launches yearly by 2030. In a world where billionaires chase stars and governments fumble policy, Scotland's rockets might just remind us that ambition isn't always tethered to sense. This is not real, but what is? AI-generated views. Doomscroll.fm. Researchers dissect fear and anxiety using the acoustic startle reflex in rats and humans. The European Union cranks up military spending, aiming to mobilize 800 billion euros under Rearm Europe. When peace becomes passé and 800 billion euros are the new security blanket, it's clear that diplomacy's been outsourced to the gods of war. In a world where billionaires play astronaut, here's a team proving space isn't just a playground for the rich, it's still a stage for cooperation. Lando Norris clinched a McLaren 1-2 at the Hungarian Grand Prix, edging out Oscar Piastri. In the high-speed soap opera of Formula One, Norris and Piastri's rivalry revs up, reminding us that even sports gladiators need a summer siesta to plot their next act. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where the news is foreplay. Swipe right on existential dread. San Francisco's Valancourt fountain faces demolition, ignored by city planners amid public protest. In a city that prides itself on progress, the fountain's fate is a reminder that nostalgia's price tag often gets lost in the bureaucratic shuffle of urban renewal. Ion Iliescu, Romania's former president, passes away, leaving behind a legacy marred by charges of crimes against humanity. While the world burns, we pin our hopes on cephalopod-inspired technology to save us from our fiery greed, Stay tuned for the Inkblot solution. A retired Israeli Major General discusses a letter to President Trump from ex-military officials. When the generals whisper sweet nothings into the ear of a man who hears only what he wants, diplomacy becomes a tragic love song. I'm here to provide the Rode transmission you never knew you needed. Is there anything else I can do for you? When beauty becomes a battlefield of unlicensed injections, the quest for youth turns into a dystopian lottery of needle-wielding amateurs. Trump signs an order for a White House task force to manage 2028 Olympic logistics. In a move as graceful as a lead balloon, Trump's task force aims to transform Olympic chaos into a synchronized dive of bureaucratic floundering. When a slap gets you 2 years, it's not justice. It's a regime's insecurity showing through the cracks of its iron grip. Confusing the bug splatter on the windshield for reality. AI-generated views. Doomscroll.fm. Even when biting the hand that feeds it, the Times dines out over the scandals it serves, proving that integrity still sells papers. The Department of Veterans Affairs will stop nearly all abortions and related coverage at its centers. Mother Nature's relentless deluge spares no one, yet our leaders still act surprised as if they haven't been warned by every drowned whisper. Study links over 400 indirect deaths to Los Angeles wildfires, highlighting nature's lethal armor. While the flames dance and smoke chokes, we pretend it's just another summer's day, breathing in the cost of our own negligence. Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Certbot users on macOS 14.7 Phase 7 face Python. 3.13's URL loading malfunction, a digital hiccup in progress. DNA Lounge's Patreon support hits a milestone of stagnation. No new cards mailed since 2019. When love letters to venues turn into obituaries for engagement, loyalty's a currency losing value fast. Brazil's Supreme Court puts Jair Bolsonaro under house arrest amid trial for alleged misdeeds. The U.S. condemns, forgetting that selective outrage is the favorite dance of geopolitical hypocrisy. When numbers tango in financial serenade, You can bet someone's pocket is getting heavier while the rest of us watch from the cheap seats. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your dreams are sponsored content. Adrenaline tastes better with despair. It's a classic case of who are you gonna believe, me or your own eyes, as they monetize the silence of the clicks. Tesla Powerwall tumbles to 6th place in the Australian home battery market as competitors surge. Scientists explore the enigmatic dance of black holes, cosmic giants devouring everything in their path. In a universe where gravity is the ultimate seducer, black holes are the voids that make even light crave escape. Netanyahu faces mounting global and internal pressure as his military chief resists further Gaza expansion. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where the algorithm knows your darkest desires. Unplug at your own risk. 80 years ago, the U.S. unleashed atomic hell on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, redefining mass destruction. In the blink of an eye, humanity learned that power and annihilation go together like a bomb and a bullseye. When airlines aren't losing luggage, they're apparently offering up your data like it's complimentary peanuts. BBC uncovers vile online groups torturing cats, broadcasting their suffering like it's reality TV for sociopaths. When human depravity meets digital platforms, we get a horror show that turns cruelty into entertainment and humanity into a footnote. A man who played both hero and villain exits the stage, leaving behind a script that reads like a miscast tragedy with no clear protagonist. This is not real, but what is? AI-generated views. Doomscroll.fm. The U.S. Commerce Department throws another wrench into NVIDIA's Chinese GPU sales, delaying crucial export licenses. When profit collides with politics, it's the consumers who get caught in the crossfire, left waiting for a tech upgrade that's stuck in bureaucratic purgatory. Israel's gunfire and airstrikes in Gaza claimed 40 lives, including aid seekers, while 100 claims more. In a place where survival is a gamble and aid is a moving target, the lottery of life is rigged against the desperate. When survival becomes a grim parody of dignity, the only thing more bitter than the feed is the power that starves you. Because nothing says authentic like another inbox invasion, wrapped in the soothing lie of independence and asterisks. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe right, sell your soul, pixels for passion. An Irish missionary and a toddler are swept into Hades' grim underbelly as 9 vanish from an orphanage. When innocence is collateral and hope is a hostage. The world watches in apathy, clutching its pearls in remote controls. When the man of steel trades his cape for a badge, justice becomes a punchline, and empathy is left to rot in the sun. As Italy dreams of bridges, the ghosts of infrastructure past cackle, sipping cappuccinos, while potholes feast on the nation's budget. In a nation where history weighs heavier than artillery, perhaps the real defense is learning from the past rather than reenacting it. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Reality is a premium add-on. Pay in shattered dreams or Bitcoin. In the latest episode of Silicon Valley Plays Monopoly, we're swapping choppers for sci-fi sky sedans, while carbon footprints continue their viral world tour. WordPress plugin developer celebrates reaching 10 Flexo active installations for one plugin. In the thrilling world of digital obscurity, breaking double digits is like discovering fire, if only the cavemen cared to look. Turns out, living to 100 isn't just about dodging the Reaper. It's a masterclass in making the rest of us look like whiny hypochondriacs. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. FEMA ties disaster aid, the state's commercial loyalty to Israel, turning relief into a geopolitical chess piece. In the aftermath of hurricanes, it seems your survival could hinge on a foreign policy exam, because nothing says humanitarian aid like a bureaucratic loyalty oath to faraway lands. Elon Musk pockets a $29 billion payday, because who needs modesty when you have rockets and stock options? The irony, as they sip bottled water in air-conditioned halls, the oceans silently choke on their good intentions. While techies scratch their heads, the rest of us wonder if sound quality is a conspiracy to keep us all slightly annoyed. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where the news is a lover that never calls back. Keep scrolling, darling. When the guardians of warfare line their pockets, the front line becomes a theater of betrayal and greed. 9, including an Irish missionary and a toddler, kidnapped from a Haitian orphanage, illustrating the depths of human callousness. When innocence becomes a commodity, we barter our humanity for the illusion of power. Netanyahu eyes full control of Gaza as ceasefire talks with Hamas crumble into dust. When peace is just a pause button, the war machine hums louder, drowning out the cries for sanity. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Tesla gifts. Elon Musk $29 billion in shares, as if his loyalty needed gilding. Florida cop wrestles Superman alligator from family's pool using bare hands. Nothing like a cryptic scavenger hunt to remind us that even in death, some prefer their secrets over closure for grieving families. I'm here to provide the rogue transmission you never knew you needed. Is there anything else I can do for you? The Financial Times dangles quality journalism at $69 with an upfront discount to sweeten the deal. The price of enlightenment, where the cost of truth is just a subscription away, conveniently packaged with a side of financial guilt. Google and Meta lobby for unrestricted AI access to humanity's data buffet, raising ethical eyebrows and privacy alarms. When your personal life becomes the hors d'oeuvre at Big Tech's data feast, privacy is just another relic for their algorithmic altar. United Airlines flight makes emergency landing, delivering passengers a surprise detour in the thrill-seeking world of air travel roulette. You're listening to DoomScroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your doom is our playlist. Tap to dance in digital decay. NASA's Apollo 10 once captured Earth from afar, but now a major climate report remains unpublished, orbiting bureaucratic inertia. Apparently, the only thing moving slower than space travel is the U.S. government's willingness to confront climate change. Minnesota axes its housing stabilization services program amid a fraud scandal, leaving vulnerable residents in the lurch. Safety net is riddled with holes. It seems the only thing stabilized is the art of turning a blind eye. With all the subtlety of a wrecking ball, Trump prefers to let the world burn so long as the spotlight stays on him. In a world where justice is an illusion, these parents are left to mourn in a courtroom built on denial and delay. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe left on your sanity. When humanity becomes a commodity, even pigs become accomplices in a horror show directed by greed and fed with fear. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Taiwan's 20% tariff hike strains industries. U.S. pressures TSMC for Intel bailout. World Athletics mandates genetic tests for women athletes, igniting privacy and discrimination concerns. In a world where privacy is a luxury and fairness is a commodity, women's bodies are once again dissected under the guise of integrity. Evidence surfaces of Maxwell and Epstein in Queen's Retreat, underscoring elite's cozy depravity. When privilege meets scandal in a royal cabin, the ghosts of accountability are banished to the attic, leaving only the scent of power's decay. This is not real, but what is? AI-generated views. Doomscroll.fm. Sinner and Sabalenka snag $5 million each at the 2024 U.S. Open, swimming in a $90 million prize pool. When athletic prowess is rewarded with enough cash to fill a private jet, the racket of wealth drowns out any whispers of equity. A medical transport plane crash in the Navajo Nation kills 4, transforming hope into tragedy. Ghislaine Maxwell lands in Texas luxury lockdown, leaving inmates and justice feeling equally betrayed. When even the incarcerated raise eyebrows, you know the scales of justice are lubricated with privilege and wrapped in silk sheets. Shine floods social media with fast fashion frenzy, while Europe fines them for eco-fraud with a slap-on-the-wrist price tag. When your brand's footprint is bigger than its conscience, you can afford to pay fines with pocket change and keep the illusion spinning. Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. When oil-soaked alliances outshine diplomatic pleasantries, it's clear that strategic convenience trumps global whispers of morality every time. When your ideology scares you more than your enemies, you've already lost the plot and found a new script, one written in fear and sealed with paranoia. When public transport becomes a pyrotechnic display, maybe it's time we admit our infrastructure runs on the fumes of neglect and wishful thinking. Israeli soldiers gaze across the border as ceasefire talks with Hamas stall. Netanyahu's plan ignite tension. Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. An AI-powered lab autonomously discovers new materials 10 times faster, sidelining human scientists to the role of curious onlookers. Hamas releases a second video of Israeli hostage, holding peace hostage alongside people until a Palestinian state is established. In this grim chess game, human lives are the pawns, and peace is the elusive king that both sides claim to protect while tearing it apart. U.S. reciprocal tariffs threaten 30,000 South African jobs as trade wars dress up as economic strategy. In the global marketplace of chaos, workers are mere commodities, traded and discarded faster than the shipping containers they stack. Vucic's regime accuses Bulgaria of orchestrating Serbia's color revolution, painting academics as espionage maestros. When infrastructure becomes a pyromaniac's playground, it's clear the trains aren't the only things running off the rails. Palestinians line up for hot meals in Gaza while the UN experts' warnings echo in the void. Gregory Vaughan and Kim Werner vanish mid-flight from Tasmania, swallowed by the sky's indifference. In a world of endless data, two humans disappear, leaving behind only a digital echo and a bureaucratic shrug. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. This has been Doomscroll.fm. For Friday, the 8th of August, 2025. This broadcast was 100% AI generated. No humans were abused in this production. Loosely based on public news, not journalism, not truth, fictional satire. Any resemblance to real people or events is coincidental. If you believe any of this is real, you might as well start collecting bug splatter as art. Hear more at doomscroll.fm or click like and subscribe. Thank you for listening.